Imagine a world untouched by modernity, where communities thrived in close-knit bands, living in harmony with nature and each other. But beneath the surface of this idyllic existence lay a lurking terror, something that would shake the foundations of their very lives. This is the story of the first pandemic in human history, a silent predator that spread relentlessly, instilling fear and chaos in the hearts of our ancestors. Today, we'll explore how this ancient scourge transformed communities, forever altering the course of human history. As we step back in time to the dawn of humanity, picture vast landscapes filled with lush greenery, flowing rivers, and diverse wildlife. Early humans, our ancestors, roamed these lands, hunting and gathering to survive. They relied on their instincts, their knowledge of the environment, and the bonds of family and community. These groups were small, usually consisting of about 20 to 50 individuals. They shared everything, from food to stories, laughter to tears. In this world, every sunrise brought the promise of a new day filled with opportunities for connection and discovery. Families huddled together around fires, exchanging tales of their hunts and the lessons learned from the land. But unbeknownst to them, an unseen enemy was lurking. A pathogen, perhaps a strain of tuberculosis or another infectious disease, began to infiltrate these communities. The first signs were subtle, coughs and fevers that were dismissed as mere ailments of the season. However, as the days turned into weeks, the illness spread like wildfire, and the world they had known began to unravel. Imagine the whispers that filled the air, the hushed tones of concern as sickness claimed its victims. The once vibrant gatherings turned into somber meetings, where the laughter of children was replaced by the sound of mourning. As the illness tightened its grip, the ancient world transformed from a place of connection to one of isolation and dread. Families that once relied on each other for survival found themselves keeping their distance, fearing the very breath of those they loved. A mother, having nurtured her children with love and care, now faced a heart-wrenching decision: to care for her sick child or to protect her remaining family from the unknown threat. This was a dilemma that no parent should ever have to face. As the pandemic spread, entire communities were decimated. The death toll rose, and the living were left to navigate a landscape of grief, uncertainty, and survival. The very earth that had cradled their ancestors was now seen as a graveyard, a haunting reminder of the fragility of life. Within these communities, the pandemic began to unravel the very fabric of society. The ancient principles that governed their lives, cooperation, trust, and shared responsibility, were replaced by suspicion and fear. Neighbors who once gathered for communal meals now avoided eye contact, crossing the street to steer clear of one another. This shift was not merely a social inconvenience, it was a matter of life and death. The disease did not discriminate. It struck young and old alike. As the sickness spread, the bonds that held families and communities together weakened. The very essence of humanity was challenged. In this tumultuous time, rituals that once celebrated life turned into ceremonies of mourning. The ancient burial rites, which honored the dead with elaborate ceremonies, now became frantic attempts to dispose of bodies to prevent further spread of the disease. The meticulous rituals that had once brought solace and closure were replaced by hurried burials, often performed in secrecy and fear. Imagine a father trembling as he prepares to bury his beloved wife. The sacred traditions of washing the body, dressing it in fine garments, and laying it to rest with cherished belongings were now overshadowed by the urgent need to act before the illness claimed more lives. The weight of grief became intertwined with the burden of survival, creating a cocktail of emotions that would haunt the living. As the pandemic raged on, communities faced a reckoning. Would they allow fear to tear them apart, or would they find strength in unity? Faced with the terrifying unknown, these early humans began to adapt. They turned to the wisdom of nature, seeking out herbs and plants believed to hold healing properties. The knowledge passed down through generations became a lifeline. Elders, once revered for their wisdom, became central figures in the quest for healing. They shared their experiences, recounting tales of plants that had helped in times of illness, urging the younger members of the group to gather these precious resources. As the community came together in their search for a cure, they found solace in shared purpose. The act of gathering resources, of pooling their knowledge, fostered a renewed sense of cooperation born from the ashes of fear. However, the psychological toll was immense. The fear of the unknown loomed large, creating an atmosphere charged with anxiety and paranoia. Accusations flew as individuals sought to explain the inexplicable. It must be that outsider, some would say, pointing fingers at travelers who had passed through their territory. This scapegoating only deepened the divides within the community. The need for connection clashed with the instinct to protect oneself, resulting in a palpable tension that hung in the air. Relationships that had once been built on trust were now marred by suspicion, and the very idea of community began to fracture. The first pandemic in human history served as a stark reminder of the vulnerability of life. It taught our ancestors that survival is not just a matter of physical endurance, but also of emotional resilience and social cohesion. As they emerged from the ashes of fear, they carried with them a deeper understanding of their interconnectedness, a lesson that resonates even today in our own struggles against the threats that loom on the horizon. The legacy of this ancient pandemic would ripple through time, shaping the very course of human evolution. As communities adapted to the challenges they faced, they began to develop a greater understanding of health and disease. The need for cooperation in the face of adversity would lay the groundwork for the emergence of more sophisticated social structures. In the aftermath, the survivors forged new bonds, learning to navigate the complexities of communal living with a renewed sense of purpose. The lessons learned from the pandemic would become woven into the very fabric of their societies, creating a resilience that would be tested again and again throughout history. As the pandemic gradually receded, communities faced the daunting task of rebuilding their lives from the remnants of loss. The scars left by the illness were not only visible in the empty spaces where loved ones once stood, but also in the hearts of those who had survived. Elders took on the responsibility of guiding the younger members of the group, sharing stories of resilience and survival. They emphasized the importance of community, reminding everyone that it was unity that had allowed them to endure the darkest days. This renewed focus on cooperation led to the establishment of communal gatherings, where stories were shared and healing rituals were performed. In the wake of the pandemic, knowledge became a cornerstone of societal evolution. Communities began to document their findings, creating oral traditions that passed down wisdom about plants, healing practices, and survival strategies. Elders, once seen as mere storytellers, became revered as keepers of knowledge. The importance of understanding disease and health took precedence, leading to the development of early forms of medicine. Communities began to classify herbs and plants, creating a rudimentary system of herbalism that would serve as the foundation for future medical practices. As communities rebuilt, they recognized the importance of social bonds in their survival. The pandemic had taught them that isolation was a weakness and togetherness was strength. New rituals emerged, celebrating life, resilience, and the bonds that held them together. Communities began to prioritize social gatherings where stories were shared and laughter filled the air. These gatherings became a source of solace, a reminder that even in the face of adversity, joy could still be found. The act of sitting around a fire, sharing food, and recounting tales became sacred, a testament to their enduring spirit. Nature, which had once been a source of sustenance, became a symbol of resilience. The early humans began to understand their relationship with the earth on a deeper level. They recognized that the land, while providing resources, also demanded respect and care. As they ventured into the forests and fields, they learned to read the signs of nature. They observed the cycles of plants, the migratory patterns of animals, and the changing seasons. This knowledge became essential for their survival, guiding their hunting and gathering practices. The pandemic sparked a new understanding of health and hygiene. Communities began to adopt practices that promoted cleanliness and well-being. They learned the importance of separating the sick from the healthy, developing early forms of quarantine to protect the remaining members of their groups. The concept of health evolved, moving beyond mere survival to encompass well-being. People began to prioritize not just physical health, but also emotional and spiritual well-being. This holistic approach laid the groundwork for future generations, shaping how humans would interact with health throughout history. The first pandemic also had a profound impact on spirituality. As communities grappled with loss and uncertainty, they turned to their beliefs for comfort. The rituals that had once been centered around celebration now took on new meanings. acts of mourning, remembrance, and healing. Shamans and spiritual leaders became vital figures in these communities, guiding the grieving and facilitating connections with the spirit world. They performed ceremonies to honor the dead, believing that those who had passed would continue to watch over the living. Art also emerged as a powerful tool for coping with the trauma of the pandemic. Cave paintings and carvings took on new significance, becoming a means of expressing grief and resilience. The act of creating art allowed individuals to process their emotions, creating a shared language of experience. As they painted their stories on cave walls, they documented their struggles and triumphs, leaving behind a legacy for future generations. These artistic expressions became a way to honor those who had been lost, ensuring that their memories lived on through the ages. As communities adapted to their new reality, they began to transform. The lessons learned from the pandemic shaped their approach to life, leading to innovations in social structures, health practices, and resource management. The importance of cooperation became ingrained in their culture. Communities developed systems of governance that emphasized collective decision-making, ensuring that everyone had a voice in shaping their future. This emphasis on collaboration laid the groundwork for the development of more complex societies. The aftermath of the pandemic also spurred increased interaction between communities. As groups began to rebuild, they recognized the value of trade and the sharing of resources. This exchange of goods and knowledge fostered connections that transcended geographical boundaries. Trade routes began to emerge, linking distant communities and facilitating the exchange of not just materials, but also ideas. The sharing of knowledge about healing practices and agricultural techniques became crucial for the survival of these early societies. The lessons learned during the first pandemic would resonate through the ages, shaping the trajectory of human history. As communities adapted and evolved, they became more resilient, learning to navigate the complexities of life in a world fraught with uncertainty. The resilience forged in the crucible of adversity would serve as a blueprint for future generations. The importance of connection, knowledge, and cooperation became foundational principles that would guide humanity through the challenges to come. As we reflect on the ancient world, let us remember that the first pandemic was not just a story of fear and suffering. It was also a testament to human resilience, adaptability, and the power of community. In the face of overwhelming odds, our ancestors found a way to survive, to learn, and to grow stronger together. Today, as we navigate our own challenges, we can draw inspiration from the lessons of the past. The legacy of our ancestors reminds us that even in the darkest times, hope can emerge, and the bonds of community can guide us through. If you found this journey into the past compelling, be sure to subscribe for more stories that explore the rich tapestry of human history. Together, we can delve deeper into the narratives that shape our present and illuminate our future. What lessons do you think we can learn from our ancestors as we face our own modern-day challenges? Share your thoughts in the comments below.